Gone, Dad.
What's
Anyway,
happening, everybody? As promised, a full house here at the Dynasty War Zone, the mock draft Monday on a Tuesday. Packed house full of dynasty wisdom. I'm going to go around the horn if you're watching live on Twitter or on YouTube with our guests. We promised them in the intro. I'm going to start with one half of the colossal connection known as the Devi Marketplace. I'm going to start with Kane Fossell. You can find him on Twitter at Devi_Kane. Kane, my friend, welcome back. It's been a little while.
Hey, thanks, Memphis. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be back and talk some running backs, and hopefully I can be right before Shane because I want to snipe him as much as possible.
Nothing more hurtful and more fun than sniping your podcast co-host
That's true.
in a redraft. So what I'm going to do is I introduce each one of these fine gentlemen. I am going to ask them for their prediction for the AFC and NFC championship games, as well as the Super Bowl. So Kane, you're up first. You're on the spot. You get to lay it down with your picks.
So obviously you can tell I'm a health nut, so I know all about injuries. I just like to see Jerry's face. I'm a health nut. Jerry goes, ugh. So I think Mahomes is back. I think he plays. So I think they end up winning. The Chiefs end up beating the Bills, and then the Packers beat the Buccaneers, and of course the Packers lose to the Chiefs.
All right, and then the other half of the colossal connection known as the Devi Marketplace. I love these guys, and if you're not checking out their podcast, first of all, shame on you. It's free. You can find it just about everywhere where you can find podcasts, and they also have an amazing Patreon. So they're being very humble and very they're not like me. I'm a complete shill. I'm a complete whore, and I will even whore stuff that isn't mine, but I am a big fan of both the Devi Marketplace and what these two gents have going on. But his tag team partner, he is Shane P. Hallam. Shane, what's going on, buddy?
Look, I'm happy to be here as well. I'm hopefully I can I get enough crap from Kane during the week on our show. Like I don't need another night of the week here. This is something.
I feel like, but I'm so calm. Everyone thinks I get so
are.
many DMs, right, Shane? I get all these DMs that say, "Kane, you're so calm and level-headed. How do you never like? How does your voice never escalate? Like you're always just so calm and cool and collected. I don't know how you do it, Kane. I get those DMs 100 times a day.
I mean, look, those people need to do a podcast with you, I
think. They haven't listened to me then, right?
Sorry, but if Memphis, I appreciate you having me, man.
No, man. I can never book you guys separately. You wouldn't book Batman without Robin. You wouldn't. You just got to have the tag team champion. So, who are your picks for this upcoming weekend, and who's going to take it all down?
Yeah, so I think the Chiefs win by 20 points. I think they dominate the Bills with Mahomes coming back. I think the Buccaneers squeak out a victory against the Packers. So I think we see Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, and I think it's hard to say that the Chiefs won't repeat. So I'll go with that.
All right, and this next gentleman, he's new to maybe some of you, but he's been on the show with me a couple of times, as well as the Dynasty Happy Hour contractor. He hails from the Kansas area. Kansas, was it Manhattan, Kansas, if I remember correctly. His name is Dallas Hayter, and you can follow him at Salad Galore. Dallas, welcome back. First time with Jerry. I apologize in advance.
Yep.
And tell us a little bit about what you have going on, and then your predictions for the AFC and NFC championship game.
All right, yeah. Thanks for having me again. Quick turnaround on this one, which is kind of nice, but I'm ready to mock today. Like you said, I'm actually from KC here, so I'm repping my Chiefs pretty much all the way here. As for what I have going on right now, I'm a writer for the Podcasting Network. I specifically do a lot of our rookie stuff, basically, is what I focus on. So I'm excited to get the mocks in, incorporating the 2021 running backs, at least tonight. And then as for my predictions, I got to go with my Chiefs. It was definitely a scary moment when we saw Mahomes go down this last weekend, and we were all for certain we were going to lose the game with the Browns. So it was pretty awesome that Henny was able to pull it out. As Patrick Mahomes coined, anything is possible now. So It was a cute little saying that he had after the game. But yeah, so I have the Chiefs winning it, and I'm not as optimistic as you, Kane, with the 20 points, but I'm going to go ahead and say probably 10-point game. I don't think Josh Allen's able to do exactly what he's been doing to the Chiefs defense with the way that Matthew's playing. And then I can't bet against Rodgers this year. He's just proven it time and time again. I know the Bucs caught them kind of sleeping the last time they played, but my prediction is Aaron Jones has a big game. And then again, I have Mahomes beating Aaron Rodgers to just kind of take the mantle from him and say, I'm the next GOAT. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I've already introduced my co-host. Jerry, what are your predictions for the AFC and NFC championship game, and then the bowl that is super?
Pretty much all the same thing that everybody else is saying. There is pretty much two quarterbacks in the NFL that I could not hate more than Michigan Wolverine Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers been kicking the dog piss out of the Detroit Lions for 15 years. I'm not going to bet, just like Dallas said. I'm not betting against Aaron Rodgers this year. As far as the AFC, it's the Chiefs. What do you want? They just turn it on and they just do whatever the hell they want. It's like they choose sometimes. They just play down to their competition, and then they're like, all right, let's play. And then it's over. So I'm going to take them. I'm going to take them in the Super Bowl. And just for the record, Kane, about when it comes to healthy eating, let me give you a little point of advice. I decided to go with the clear soda. It's clearly healthier than all of the other sodas. So I am in the same realm as you, my friend.
That's interesting that you mentioned that. I think we don't talk about how just good for you malt is, especially barley. I'm a health nut and I'm a nut. I think it's just really healthy for you. Memphis would know. He's the healthier cat. Obviously, I'm just right behind him. I work out only 6 times a day. I work out my mouth 7 times a day.
Yeah,
but
listen, the Culver's workout is a serious workout that should not be overshadowed.
I work off at least 4 or 5 calories just getting it to my mouth, and then I just gain it all right back.
It's important.
A bad plan is better than no plan. Now I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm saying Buffalo Bills. If anyone knows me,
Get out of here.
Josh Allen is my ride or die. Baker Mayfield is not, and I thought Baker in Cleveland had him dead to rights on Sunday. I actually think they played better, especially on the offensive side of the ball, than Kansas City. That offense has looked weird for the better part of 2 months, whether it was the Atlanta game. You guys know what a big bettor and gambler I am with the Big Bet podcast with Dr. Kyle. And the Chiefs have been 1-8 against the spread in their last 9 games. And if you consider the spread like expectations, like whether you meet or exceed expectations, that's the number put on them by Vegas, and they have not done it. Now, I'm calling for the Bills out and out win. That team could be 12-0 had it not been for the Hail Murray. And I don't think they can quote unquote turn it on and turn it off. But the one thing I do like is the way that Buffalo's defense is playing. Whether or not it was a fluky game and Lamar got hurt, doesn't matter. They held Baltimore to 3 points, a top 6 offense in the league to 3 points. Defense is looking better. And then the other game, I'm with Shane. Give me the greatest American alive today, Tom Brady, in his kale pajamas and his avocado ice cream. Give me Tom Brady. For the first time, we've heard this story for I don't know how many times, when a quarterback and a team has a chance to play a Super Bowl in their home stadium. It's going to be the former king of the AFC East and the current king of the AFC East doing battle in Tampa Bay, and I'm calling Buffalo Bills world champions in February. So the reason why you guys are here is to talk about some running backs. Now, I have been what's the word I'm going to look for? I've been very critical of this class. I think it's very top-heavy from a rookie perspective. I think we all like Najee Harris. I think we all like Travis Etienne. But we're going to figure out where they would be in the mix with some recent classes. So we had 2019 with guys like Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, Darrell Henderson. You can throw in Myles Gaskin and Devin Singletary in there. Then the class from 2020, which may be the best class since 2017, with Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, Akers, who's come on strong down the stretch, Dobbins, who was playing so well toward the end of the season that Mark Ingram was a healthy scratch many times. a personal favorite of mine in Antonio Gibson, a personal favorite of Jerry and Shane, James Robinson, and A.J. Dillon, who I don't think has reached his peak. And then some of the rookies, again, Najee, Etienne, you got Chuba, Javonte Williams, and Kenneth Gainwell. So here's what we're going to do. 5 does not divide by 12 very well, so I'm going to moderate this thing. So I see Shane doing the math on his fingers.
Let's try.
He is a teacher by trade and a podcaster at night. That's his moonlighting gig. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go, again, same circular order. We're going to give Kane the 101, and we're going to give him a minute. So we're going to go Kane, Shane, Dallas, Jerry. They'll all make 3 picks, and they will be making these picks as if they were independent of each other. So it wouldn't be like, oh, well, I drafted I drafted this guy here. So no, you would be pretending as if you were a completely different owner, and you're drafting the running back that you think is best of this lot. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my man, row the boat, Mr. Kane Fossell, 101. Who you got? There's no boats to row. There's no Minnesota Golden Gophers. So who are you going to take with this 101?
Yeah, so this is really easy to me. It's Jonathan Taylor. He is, out of this list, the best running back on the board. Add in the fact that we already know his landing spot, and they still have a good offensive line. Obviously, we don't know what they're going to do at quarterback, how that's going to shake out. But still, I think they're still going to rely on Jonathan Taylor to really tote the rock. And we just saw the success that he had in the second half of this season. And that's pretty much going to dictate that he should be successful moving forward, unless he's going to Trent Richardson us, which who knows?
It's too late for that now. It's way too late for JT. I agree 100%. And I didn't wear my Colts hat tonight. I wore my Boston Red Sox hat. I didn't want to come across as a homer when we were talking about JT, but I'm a tremendous fan. I've moved him up to number 2 overall in my rookie rankings. Number 2 overall in my startup rankings, and as far as a running back position, I have it CMC and then I have it JT back to back. I think the world of this guy, and we saw his, unheralded. His pass catching was not considered a calling card, but he had a very good catch rate this year with Uncle Phil. So a very versatile and well-rounded back. I don't think there's any pushback. I'm going to ask your co-host. I'm going to ask Shane. Shane, what do you think about JT at the 101, and then who would be your 102?
I mean, I think JT's slam dunk. I mean, he was my 101 all the way last year, and it worked out. Wow, I think 102 is tough. I mean, I think I'm definitely dipping into that 2020 class, right? I mean, I think that's definitely going to happen. The question is whom. So, you know what? I'm going to go with Cam Akers. I think Cam Akers is maybe a little safer choice at the 102 than some others, but, you know, relatively healthy. We've seen the damage he can do in the playoffs. Sean McVay does like to use one primary back, and I like me some Darrell Henderson still, but I think Cam Akers is clearly the most talented in the guy. He's improved a lot. So I'm going to take Cam Akers to be the Todd Gurley for McVay and the Rams for the next few years.
Can we just mention that Shane just dropped the word whom in a sentence for us?
Whether it was correct or not, I don't know.
That was the indirect object. That is correct.
Yeah.
See, I'm not even intelligent enough to know what the blue hell you guys are talking about, but I do know that I love the Cam Akers pick. So I did some Cam Akers prop bets over the weekend, and before I put out prop bets, I do my research. And I noticed that since the last 6 games, Cam Akers has had at least a 61% or higher snap share for the Rams. And this is clearly the man that Sean McVay is looking for to replace Todd Gurley. I think Shane nailed it. If you look at Jared Goff, and I know there's the report coming out of LA that he and McVay need some quote unquote marriage counseling. I don't know what that means, but I know his contract and the $60 million they owe him over the next 2 years means they better at least stick together for the kids. But if you look at Jared Goff, he was the QB 12 and the QB 6 on the 2017 and 2018 seasons when he had a very effective running game with Todd Gurley. And then in 2019, as the Gurley injuries piled up, he dropped to QB 13. And then last year, without a dominant running game. He dropped to QB 19. Now, he did miss a game in there, but how do you fix Jared Goff? By giving him a really good running game to where defenses have to respect the running game. The play action means something that way. So I'm completely on board with Akers. It was a little high for me. There's a couple of guys, but I don't think it was a bad pick. I think it was a good pick. And I think it takes courage to make that pick. But if some of these other guys, A, we don't know their landing spot, and B, if he even hits 75% of Pete Gurley, that's a smash. He'll be right up against JT. So that's a good pick with upside. So
Memphis,
Dallas,
can I ask Shane a question?
you sure can. He's your co-host.
So Shane, what would you say if someone asked you about the Rams kind of changing their offensive run scheme to more fit what Cam Akers did well when they kind of moved him to a little bit more of a power scheme and used Darrell Henderson in more of the outside zone run scheme? Do you think that Akers will actually fully be able to transition into that outside zone run scheme? And do you think he's done so effectively this season?
Well, I think we saw a little bit of that in the playoffs. I think that first game, where they pulled the upset against the Seahawks, I felt like he started to make that transition, right? And he was a player that a lot of us knew was raw coming into the year as a rookie because of Florida State's, poor offensive line. And so I think for him trying to adjust to a new scheme was a bit of the problem early on. I think it's why Darrell Henderson won that job. So, I think either way, either if the Rams adapt their offensive run scheme to him, awesome. And I think if they don't, I feel confident the talent will win out. So, I'm still in. And I think the upside is the biggest out of all the guys left in this draft.
I accept.
Thank you, Kane.
For me, the eye-opener was that Thursday night game. I believe it was week 1 of most fantasy playoffs, week 14 against a very good Bill Belichick defense. Whether it was the best year in New England or not, Bill Belichick coaches defense. And for him to have like 171 total yards that game was pretty telling. And I'm excited for Cam Akers. I could talk about Cam Akers all night, but I want to know who Dallas is going to take at 103.
Yeah, at the 103, I was actually hoping I was not the third because for me, there's a drop off after JT and Akers, and I was kind of dabbling with a few different guys, but I think I'm going to have to go with Miles Sanders at number 3. Specifically for me, I think talent-wise, out of all the backs that are left, he has the highest upside out of anyone that's left. We've seen him break off those Saquon Barkley-esque 80-yard touchdown runs without even thinking twice about it. He's done it multiple times in the same game. He has those massive boom games where you're winning the week because he's scoring you 30, 35 points in PPR. We used to say and use the excuse of Doug Peterson doesn't know how to use running backs. That's not an excuse anymore going into this season. He's got the workload basically to go into this year with, I believe, Corey Clement is an unrestricted free agent and Boston Scott is also an unrestricted free agent. So you're looking at it now. They may bring in competition of some kind, but it's probably not going to end up being high draft capital. They are in cap hell, so they're definitely not signing anyone. And so when you look at Miles Sanders, the situation he's going in with whoever they decide to go in with the head coach, odds are the top 2 priorities for the team are fixing Carson Wentz and keeping the run game going. So hopefully the new head coach is able to actually use Miles Sanders how he was used back at Penn State, and we get more of those flashes of what we've been seeing on a more consistent basis.
Now, I like this pick a lot. It takes a lot to pick a guy coming off of a very rough year. And the Philadelphia Eagles, they rushed the ball the 6th fewest times in the league last year. 37.8% of the time they rushed the ball. I find that to be odd. You have a quarterback who's struggling in Carson Wentz. Then you switch to a quarterback who is learning the NFL game kind of on the fly. And how would you support either A, a struggling quarterback, or B, a new quarterback? Well, you would like to think you would lean on a really, really talented running back, and for whatever reason, Doug Peterson couldn't do that. I think part of it's money, in that Philadelphia has a huge commitment to Carson Wentz, and they're going to give him every opportunity to fail. And not only just a commitment for money, they gave up multiple draft picks. They've done a lot for Carson Wentz. And how do you support him? Well, you fix the offensive line, but you allow his running game to get better. Jerry, I know you're a big Miles Sanders guy, but as your co-host, I would like to say that I'm as good a co-host as Shane is to Kane or vice versa, but I have no idea who I think you will go with. And I'm going to guess. I'm going to write down a name, and I am going to see if I'm right. Jerry, who are you taking at the 104?
Did you write it down? You ready? We're good? Okay. I feel like if you were in the position I am in, you would trade into Kane's spot because you would want to smash the guy that I'm not picking. And for the record, I do like Miles Sanders, and I think that's a good spot for him. I think he's the only guy in that class that I'm taking in this top half of this draft. I think it's all 2020 guys for the most part. I'm taking James Robinson. He's a rookie. He had 1,400 yards. He had 10 touchdowns. He had 49 receptions. He's adding Trevor Lawrence to his team. He's got Uncle Urban coming in as his coach right now. What more do you want? My nipples are hard just talking about the thought of James Robinson in that entire situation. Have we seen the things that Uncle Urban has been able to do with the likes of Carlos Hyde? J.K. Dobbins came in there and was a monster. Yes, I am very excited. And yes, there's a possibility that they bring someone in, but that team is such a big, old, ugly, hairy, burnt turd that there are so many other things that they need to address. Why in... I'm going to not swear. Why in the heck would you come in there and look at this man's resume and go, this is what we need to change? Uncle Urban is not stupid enough to do that. That's still going to be James Robinson's situation. Excuse me, James Robinson's spot. Give me that. Randy, are you trading into Kane's spot and taking DeAndre Swift? And who did you write down? Did you write down Robinson?
I wrote down Swift, but I know that you love Robinson. I was really torn between the guy that I know that you traded for multiple times since the season's been over and the guy who's in Honolulu Blue. It was a really tough debate. It could have been a coin.
Number one. Lions fans never trust Lions.
But before I go to Kane for the 105, I want to go to Shane. Remember, this guy was what they say, often imitated, never duplicated. This guy is the original James Robinson fan. He put him on all of our radars. I kept the receipts. I posted the receipts on Twitter. March of 2019, this man was talking James Robinson when he was still going into his senior year of college. So Shane, you are the innovator. You are the originator. What do you think about Jerry taking James Robinson here at 104? And do you feel like his job is safe going forward?
He is also a person that has watched probably every Urban Meyer game over the last several years too, as a Buckeye. So
that is true. Look, I love James Robinson. I'm with Jerry. I traded for him in a ton of leagues. I think it is a little high because I think it's just a little there. I still have a little fear that Urban's not going to hate. Urban's not going to have that final say, and I never trust an owner to make good decisions on personnel. So I still have a little bit of a fear. I think James Robinson will win that job, and if he does, I think he'll do well. He was 7th on my board, but I think it's a good pick, and I think he could absolutely blow it up. So.
All right, see, this is the Peter Griffin boat thing. Whoa! Why would we want a boat when that mystery box could be anything, even a boat? That's kind of how I feel about James Robinson. You got the thing. You got the 1,000-yard running back already. You've seen him as a pass catcher. You've seen him as a pass blocker. Why would they be in a hurry? To Jerry's point, they have many holes in many other places. Why would you be in a hurry to draft a running back? And I believe that in the area where they would even consider adding a running back, all of the running backs of a threatening nature will be off the board to other teams in the draft. So I think those are some of the holes that James Robinson will avoid. So, Mr. Kane, you're up with your next pick at the 105.
So this one's actually really tough for me. It's between two guys, and I like them both a lot. Oh, I would trade with Shane right now.
I don't want to trade up. I'm good.
I know neither of them will get back to me either, which is really what's going to piss me off. But I'm going to play the ADP game. So I'm going to take Gerald. You'll talk me into the other one here. But I'm just going to say a quick DeAndre Swift. I like him. I think he's a good running back, and you have to assume he'll play, just get more touches under a better coach. But also, it's the Lions, so it's kind of something you got to worry about. But I'm happy the amount of work he was getting in the passing game, knowing the Lions and just how little they're planning to win games in the next 30 years, in the past 60 years. It's clear that they're not trying to win much. So I'm gonna take the guy that at least can get me some PPR points, and that's DeAndre Swift. So I think out of the guys remaining, he has the highest ceiling other than one guy for me. So that's what I would take.
They say imitation is the greatest form of flattery, and his new head coach, although I haven't seen a press conference, Dan Campbell, he was the assistant head coach in New Orleans, and he watched a really brilliant guy in Sean Payton use Alvin Kamara in
and Latavius Murray. I'm with you
in a million different ways. So I don't know. I'm with Kane. They may bring in a Latavius Murray type to replace AP, who continues to confound along with Frank Gore. But I'm excited to think what the future could be. I'm a little nervous that Matthew Stafford could be no longer a Lion. I think that'll sort itself out. But talent, what's my one of my favorite gifts of all time? The Macho Man, the cream will rise to the top. I think when it comes to this offense, the cream will rise to the top, and they'll find ways to get the ball in the hands of DeAndre Swift. So that's who I would have taken where Jerry took James Robinson. But, Jerry's been wrong a lot. It's cool. Shane, we're going to go back to you. You're on the clock at 106. What did you think about Swift, and who's your guy?
Yeah, I was hoping for Swift for sure. He was my 103 in this draft. I think this spot's tough too, because I think you kind of have the choice of, do I take the known? Do I take what I know? Or do I kind of go to that mystery box and take someone that we don't know the landing spot, we don't know the draft capital? I'm going to play a little bit safe. I'm going to take who, when I made the board, was fourth on my board, and I'm going to take J.K. Dobbins. Mark Ingram's gone. Gus Edwards is fine, but I think we've seen J.K. Dobbins really explode and be effective and efficient. My one fear with him, same fear I have with Miles Sanders, with Jalen Hurts, the same fear I have with whoever Arizona's running back is next year. When you have a running quarterback that you don't get a ton of receptions at running back, because they usually run instead of pass to the running back. That's my one fear with Dobbins. But I think touchdowns are in order. He was scoring fairly consistently, definitely the most talented. So I'm kind of play it safe here and take Dobbins over any of these rookies coming up.
I think you said it perfectly. My only concern with Dobbins, because we've seen the monster runs. We saw the big plays. It's all about passing game targets. I believe it was Graham Barfield of Fantasy Points that determined that a target in the passing game is worth 2.8 times as much as one rushing attempt. And I don't see a lot of targets in this offense. I was looking at a lot of player props on FanDuel and things like that. The average over-under for a Ravens running back was 1.5 receptions. That is incredibly low. Now, it's not the high end like 5.5 for an Alvin Kamara, but another guy we'll talk about, but Swift was typically in the 3.5 range. That's my fear, is the receptions, but he could more than make up for it with yards and touchdown volume. So it's a very solid pick. All right, Dallas, we're back to you. There's a guy I could probably guess who you're going to take, but I don't know who you're going to take. So tell us who you're going to take.
Yeah, we're talking about receiving upside, and I'm going into the rookie class. I'm hitting up Najee Harris. For me, looking at everyone that's left on the board, pretty much everyone other than him has question marks when it comes to receiving, whether or not they did it in college and haven't shown it in the pros, or have shown that they can't do it in the pros. So when I look at Najee Harris, a man that big should not be able to look that nimble while catching balls and while moving in open space. He is Derrick Henry with some swagger, some shiftiness, and his receiving chops as a big grinder are going to make him that all-encompassing back where if he hits his ceiling, I see a top 5 running back. If he just absolutely kills it with the receiving game, like what we've seen this last year, which is obviously something that he's worked on because you didn't see that a lot his junior year at Alabama. But if he continues that receiving upside as well as lands in a good spot, I could easily see him topping this list or coming close at least to JT when it's all said and done.
Well, I like that quite a bit. Good friend of the show and good friend of just about everybody here, Ray Garvin, Mr. Ray GQ. Harris is his number 1 running back on the class, and he and I did some fantasy drafting, and he and I would love to see him go to Shane Steelers and give them that all-purpose back that would really set that offense off. Shane, would you be heartbroken if your Steelers wound up with Najee?
It'd be fine. I'd much rather left tackle and take running back later, but that's
Take Leatherwood, baby.
Hey, be nice.
See, these guys are way too practical. These guys are way too practical. These guys are clearly not out on Twitter finding mock trades to send Deshaun Watson weird places. But Jerry, take us to a weird place. Take us to a weird place with the 108.
I don't think it's a weird place, but I think he's in a weird spot right now. I'm not going to go with the rookie. I'm going to keep going 2020, and I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The narrative on this man is like he is old and busted, and he has just been cast aside with everybody else that has just been hyped up unbelievably. And I can't get behind it. We're talking about the most prolific offense in the NFL. I mean, draft capital doesn't really mean a damn thing at this point anyway, once they start playing, but clearly they are committed to the man. He's a pretty good pass catcher. He couldn't find the end zone. And listen, that first week was pitiful watching that man get stuffed. It just ripped my heart out, and he was stepping on it. Dallas, I know you felt me a little bit, except for you guys kicked the shit out of him. But
yeah, it worked.
He's shown that he can be a workhorse just being a hammer. He's also shown that he can get tons of receptions in a game, and he happens to be the starting running back on the Kansas City effing Chiefs with Patrick effing Mahomes. So the fact that I can get this man at 108 in these 3 draft classes is something telling. I mean, is there a scenario where either Najee or Etienne is going to get drafted in the first round to an elite offense like this? It would have to be Pittsburgh. If who?
Etienne to the Cardinals, baby.
Yeah, I guess if you want to give it to him,
I could see Etienne to the Dolphins at 18.
But is that Kansas City? This man could accidentally get 8 touchdowns in that offense. This offense scores over 30 points, damn near 70% of the time. I mean, he had 1,100 yards in 13 games, and everyone's like, nah, old and busted. Done with this guy. Cast him off. Let's get David Montgomery in there. That'll be better. Get the F out of here.
You don't have to sell me. He's my number 1 buy of the offseason. So I've started my free agent work. So you're seeing a lot of tweets out there right now about so-and-so is going to be a free agent. Don't trade them until they sign. Great advice. Fantastic advice. But let's take it a level deeper. Who stands to benefit in free agency when players leave? I did this on the Patreon last week for our Patreon premium subscribers. The Kansas City Chiefs are currently somewhere between 3 to 5 million projected over the cap, and Darrell Williams and Lev Bell are free agents. That leaves Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Damian Williams. This is what they drafted him for. Who?
Darwin Thompson.
Don't
forget it.
Exactly. We don't need to talk about him.
You're lucky I don't have the soundboard hooked up because you would totally get a Conor McGregor. Who the fook is that guy?
Look, Super Bowl MVP Damian Williams.
Super Bowl MVP Damian Williams.
Should have been.
But speaking of MVPs, I'm going to give the MVP of this podcast, Kane, his final pick. He's at the 109. Kane, who you taking 109, big fella?
So this is almost as easy as the 101 for me, to be completely honest. It's the best running back in the 2021 rookies. It's Travis Etienne. So if we're looking at what I actually want out of a player, so let's say hypothetically I have Najee Harris and Travis Etienne the same. There's one really important thing that Etienne does better than than Najee Harris. He's fast. That's important. Shane and I talk all the time, right? Let's say that a guy goes for 120 yards but has a really long run on 20 carries, and we say, well, if we took out this run, well, then obviously he wasn't as effective. But guess what? I want the guy that's going to score the 60-yard touchdown. And guess what? Najee Harris's longest run was 54 yards in college for his career in college. Like, he's not a burner. He's not going to have these 70-yard touchdowns in the NFL. It's just not going to happen. Dude's going to run a 4.6. Oh, wait, he's not going to run. So I think that's the most important thing, right? Get me the fast guy that's going to be in a zone run scheme that's actually going to get out into space. Sure, if we're saying that Etienne's going to go in a power run scheme, that's going to be super ineffective. It's going to be the exact same thing if Najee Harris ends up going to a zone run scheme. That's not where their talents lie. But if you're telling me that Travis Etienne can repeatedly get to the outside in an outside zone run scheme, we're literally looking at like Todd Gurley type effectiveness. And if we get him in a zone run scheme, he will be a top 10 dynasty running back for me. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Hey, I like it when these guys that are projected the 101 in their class, and for some reason we want to knock them down come combine and draft time. I'm a big ETN guy. That's not the name I was expecting, but a name that I'm glad that you brought up. All right, Mr. Shane, your last pick at the 110. I see you biting your lip. I feel like your co-host sniped you. He ends his night on a high note, sniping you. So who you taking? Who's the best of what's left at 110?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I knew I marked Etienne off my list before Kane even said it. I knew who he was taking.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So, like, I'm between three guys, right? I have three guys left on my board. One is a little more established, very low upside. I'm not taking him. One is going to be a rookie.
I thought about him, by the way, Shane.
Yeah. One is a rookie. My number 3 running back in the class, but it's risky. I don't know capital, no landing spot. So I'm going to play it safe, and I'm going to take a guy with big upside. Unfortunately, the GM hire today I knocked him down my board because I think this team's in trouble now when I thought it was very close to even being a contender, and that's Antonio Gibson of the Washington football team. Marty Hurney is one of the worst hires I have seen in 5 years. And like, they're never going to get a quarterback. They're never going to get a quarterback. And that's a problem. But I mean, Antonio Gibson himself, the fact that he came in as a receiver in college to that situation and was able to do what he did, pass catching, excellent. And that's going to have to be their team. They need him to be, a Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara type of catching the ball and, doing everything for that offense with Terry McLaurin taking off some heat. So, I think Gibson is going to develop more. He has room to grow, and the upside's still really big, and I think it's worth the pick here.
You are speaking my language, my friend. This is one of my favorite picks, and it has to do less with Marty Hurney, who I agree is not a great hire, and more to do with offensive coordinator Scott Turner. The more this young man gets involved, and we started to see it, he was just starting to peak around Thanksgiving when he beat the brakes off the Cowboys, and then he got hurt. I think it was against your Steelers. He got some turf toe. He missed the rest of that game, and then and that kind of took some of the sizzle off of Gibson. If he had finished on a similar trajectory as he was cruising along there, I don't think he would have fallen this far. Yes, the GM thing concerns me, but kind of like we talked about Jacksonville, they have so much stuff to fix in Washington that the running back position.
I disagree. I mean, I don't think they have much to fix at all. I think it's
really like a number two.
They need a quarterback, they need a second receiver, and one more offensive lineman. They can compete for a championship, but
that's like 4 things. They have
three things. Wide receiver 2 is not huge on the list. Like I think they're one of the best coach teams, and maybe one of the best defenses. And you have an elite running back, you have an elite receiver. Like, this team's really close to contending, and they could be there sooner rather than later.
And they got money too.
Until you get Mitch Trubisky, 2021 starter, Washington.
Marty Hurney's gonna love Mitch Trubisky. He's gonna love.
Don't put that on them.
I can already see it. I can see it. Here comes Mitch. All right, Dallas, last pick, 111. Who you got, bud?
I'm in the same boat as these guys were with the established guy. I'm assuming you guys were referring to Jacobs, who no one really wants to take right now, and a rookie. I'm going with a rookie. I'll take Javonte Williams. Now, I've had this conversation with Memphis before. For me, I'm still not positive that Javonte Williams is better than Michael Carter, but I'm not going to be the contrarian and take Michael Carter here. I'll just play everyone's game, and I'll take Javonte Williams. He is a bruising back. And so I don't like comps. Like, a lot of people don't like them. I'm in the same boat as you guys. But when I watch him, I watch one of my favorite players that never got the chance in the NFL. Do you guys remember Marcus Lattimore from South Carolina?
Shattered his knee.
He was a monster. Just go back and watch some highlights of Marcus Lattimore, and you'll see that same pop that you see from Javonte Williams this year when he's running. It's tenacity, and it's just recklessness with his body, which obviously at the end of the day, that's what brought Marcus Lattimore down with that horrific knee injury. But that type of back with I guess we can call it deceptive speed in the end of the day. He's not going to be a burner, but he's good enough. And he's got a lot of really good instincts in between the tackles. He's going to get a role on a team somewhere, and he's going to take a job. Now, I don't know if he's going to be a game changer, but all the guys left on the list right now are not what I would consider game changers. So I will take the upside with the rookie, who's going to be the youngest one coming in, as opposed to Jacobs or Montgomery would be probably my next two. So that's my take.
Well, they say get your mans, and you got yours. You really wanted to go Michael Carter. I know you, but you didn't want to go super bold, and that's a good strategy. You don't have to reach for a guy. This is a spot where in a real rookie draft, if you wanted Michael Carter, you could have traded back 2 to 3 spots, still got your guy and some additional capital along the way. So get your man, and I'm going to go get my man. Jerry, who's your last pick? 112.
AJ Dillon.
No, hell no. It's got to be Josh Jacobs, but it's sort of like Dallas's demeanor was when you talk about Josh Jacobs. It's like you're really hungry and you go get some cereal and you're like, F yeah, I love cereal. It's delicious. And you go and you get there and you try the Frosted Flakes and you try the Fruity Pebbles and the Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and all the boxes are empty. And you got left is the plain ass corn flakes, and that's what you're left with. And that's what Josh Jacobs was this year. And you can eat it, and that's okay. You're not going to die. You need some substance to live. You get your fiber. It's okay, but you don't enjoy it. I mean, in truth, he wasn't that bad. I mean, my man had 1,300 yards. He scored 12 times, which, I mean, they came in bunches. So some of the times he was like eating his boogers and didn't help you at all win your matchups. Other times he won you the game. So I don't know. If you told me I could get a running back of these draft classes that had 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns with the 12th pick, okay, that sounds pretty good. But then I'm like, oh, it's Josh Jacobs, and it just feels gross. Randy, you didn't get to make a pick. Would you go Josh Jacobs here? I know you're not going to pick David Montgomery. Don't effing lie. Nobody believes that for a damn second.
Well, here's the thing. I agree with you in that it's some combination here of Jacobs, Monty, and AJ Dillon. And as much as I wouldn't have said this last year, I will say this now because I've seen enough flashes, and I would go AJ Dillon, and here's why.
Whoop, whoop.
Aaron Jones is gonna want the same kind of money that Dalvin Cook got, that Alvin Kamara got, that Joe Mixon got, and Green Bay's currently, if I remember correctly, about dead even on the cap. So who do they cut to pay a running back? I feel like this was the plan all along. Bring him along slowly. I think they'll re-sign Jamal Williams to a very, very cheap deal. He'll kind of be like that satellite back plus. And then AJ Dillon will be that hammer that gets a lot of that, in between the 20s work. And to call him a poor man's Derrick Henry would be offensive to Derrick Henry everywhere, and I am not a Derrick Henry fan. But for me, if it comes down between Jacobs and Dillon, I'm just going to go with the better offense, and that's clearly Green Bay. And I love Jacobs. And Shane and I had this conversation in 2019. But unless John Gruden all of a sudden pulls his Oakland Raiders hat out of his Las Vegas ass and involves this man more in the passing game, that's a problem. But here's the thing. The minute all of a sudden Josh Jacobs gets more involved in the passing game, he jumps up into like the top 4 or 5 of this class because he's got 1,300 rushing yards. He's got 12 touchdowns. He's just missing the targets and the work overall in the passing game. That's really the one thing that's keeping him back. So that would have been one for me. The name on this list that I'm really impressed because, first of all, kudos and thank you to Shane for putting the mock list together for us. But the guy who I think is going to get replaced, although he had a good season, is Myles Gaskin. He had a nice little season in Miami. I don't think he's a quote-unquote feature back, but he's going to have a role there, and he'll continue to do well. I could see now if Miami were to use one of those later draft picks on the guy that Dallas took in Javonte Williams, Myles Gaskin would be a nice 1-2 punch. Because I don't think Myles Gaskin can physically handle an NFL workload, but you mix in a hammer like a Javonte Williams and you mix in a Myles Gaskin sparingly, I think that's a pretty awesome little tandem. So I'm glad to see. And then David Montgomery, I'm sorry. He came out of nowhere beating up the Sisters of the Poor, Jerry's Lions. He was beating up the Sisters of the Poor as it came down the stretch. Now, he looked better, but I'm not hitching my wagon to David Montgomery star. Get the hell out of here. Move on down the road. So that's where I'm at. I think you guys all did a good service to the listeners. I think you were honest. I think you were sincere. And I'm going to sincerely thank each and every one of you as I go around the horn. Kane, man, do some promoting. I'll do it for you. If you refuse to, I will. But take a minute and promote all of the goodness that you guys have going on at the Devy Marketplace.
So the Devy Marketplace is a special Devy podcast. You're not going to find another one like it. It's really looking at values of Devy players because that's the most important thing. Trying to figure out when to buy them, when to sell them, because they're not scoring any points for your fantasy team. So they need to constantly be accruing value. There's no reason to have a guy sitting on your taxi squad that doesn't accrue value. It's just a waste. So we try to look into those players and figure out when we should actually be buying them, when we should be selling them. I'll tell you now, if you're in a Devy league and you're not selling Julian Fleming, then I think you're doing yourself a disservice. He's at Ohio State. I know, Jerry, that's a writer downer.
I have him in the Devy Warzone Devy League, so thank you very much.
Yep.
Hopefully no one else is listening.
Well, when you have Chris Olave coming back and just some other guys like Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Njigba's actually playing better than Julian Fleming, right? It's hard to think that Fleming's going to have a role in this offense other than a wide receiver 4. So that's the goal of what we do. I can let Shane talk about he's over there, nodding my head the wrong way, but he can talk about the Patreon a little bit since I took care of the podcast.
All right, man. Tell us what you got going on, Shane. I know you're also you still do stuff with Steel City Insider as well as Fake Pigskins. I like you everywhere, but I love you on the Devy Marketplace. I love you with the bearded wonder beside you, Mr. Kane Fossell. What else do you want to share about the Devy Marketplace and what else you have going on?
Look, we have fun, and if you listen, if you like it, we have a Patreon. We have Patreon chat. We do a Patreon show once a week. Answer everything. It's a good group of guys. So if anyone's interested, worth a couple bucks a month. And you can check me out, fakepigskin.com. I have an article up there of why Trevor Lawrence is the greatest quarterback I've ever scouted in my 17 years now doing this. So it's I think it came out pretty well. And Steel City Insider, a full 7-round Steelers mock draft up there. So a little bit of everything here.
And if you want to know how much we'll overpay for Trevor Lawrence, just listen to the podcast. We'll tell you.
We talk about it a lot.
I mean, here's the thing. If you want to listen to a podcast and you want to feel like you're sitting around some best buddies drinking a beer at a local pub when you are allowed to do that sort of thing, that's exactly what you get with the Devy Marketplace. It's two good guys going back and forth, dropping knowledge like none other. And the Devy Marketplace is 100% a must-have. There are other good Devy podcasts out there, that is for sure, but you got to put the Devy Marketplace at the top of your queue, available everywhere where podcasts are found: Apple, Stitcher, Podbean. I listen on Apple because I'm an Apple guy. I'm easy. I have an Apple phone. But you listen where you listen, and I'll listen where I listen. Dallas, where do you listen? And where should we be listening and looking for you?
I don't have anything to plug specifically for myself. Like I said, I've been writing over at the Podcasting Network. It's kind of a newer website that started up. I'm doing some rookie content. You can find pretty much anything I write on my Twitter, like Memphis Plugged. It'll also be in the description. But other than that, if I'm going to plug anything, I'm going to plug Michael Carter. So don't forget his name. He's going to be a good guy for you guys this coming up in the year, and I'm going to die on the hill. So
he needs like a third name. So then he would sound like a boy band member, like Michael Christopher Carter, something like that. I feel like that would give him some more pizzazz. So I'll be looking.
Yeah.
I'll be looking for Michael Carter, and Jerry, what do you got? We're gonna let these guys get out of here, and I'm gonna let you get back to your homework, brother.
Yeah, listen, I got to talk about my nipples a couple times. I got to do an analogy on cereal.
No sandwich.
None of that. We'll save that one. We'll throw that one on ice a little bit. I'll just
sandwich on ice.
You got to save it. Listen, health code violations. Yeah, listen. Everything these guys said about the marketplace is true. I'm gonna pitch it again because my ass be lurking in the chat all the time. I am not the biggest chatter because, like Randy said, I got an unbelievable amount of homework right now that I have decided to dive into like a moron, which is not a surprise. But I have to write down so many names that they talk about. Everything is just a good group of guys. They're kick-ass. Randy's kick-ass. Dallas, good to meet you. Sorry I talked about my nipples so much. Randy, let's get the hell out of here.
Hey, man, it is all good. So grateful for these guys coming on, talking about the most polarizing position in Dynasty Fantasy Football. But we're glad to have them, man. This is my Devy team. This is where I go to get Devy advice because there's only so many hours in a day, and I know that I don't know the college ranks like these guys. Keep them close. So on behalf of these guys, that's Kane, Shane, Dallas, and Jerry. My name is Memphis, and remember, here at the Dynasty War Zone, we are just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. We'll see you back here real soon with more rookie content. Next week, we will be doing quarterback. So tune in for a mock draft of the quarterback position. Thanks, guys.